Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're an educator, I'm sure you know this feeling. You hear about a proven new method that's supposed to be great for the average student, but it just doesn't work for your student. Well, today we're going to look at a research tool that completely flips that script. It's all about empowering you to figure out what actually works for the individual. Let's dive in. We have all been there, am I right? You read the latest study, you get excited about some new gold standard teaching strategy, you bring it into your classroom, you're full of hope, and then nothing. It just falls flat. It's so frustrating, and it really makes you wonder if we're even asking the right questions. And this gets right to the heart of the issue. So much of our training, so many of our resources, they're all aimed at this mythical average student. But seriously, take a look around your own classroom. Does that person actually exist? No. Every single learner is unique. So this isn't just some vague philosophical idea, There's a technical name for this trap we fall into. It's a really fundamental mistake in how we interpret data, and it's called the ergodic error. Okay, so what is the ergodic error? It's when we assume that what works for a group, on average, is also going to work for any given person in that group. Think about it. A big study might show a modest positive effect, but that average is just a smokescreen. It hides the messy truth that, for a lot of students, the strategy did nothing. For some, it might have even made things worse. It only worked for a handful of kids, just enough to pull that average up a tiny bit. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? Human beings are not statistical means in shoes. We're not averages. We're complex, messy, wonderful individuals. And any approach that ignores that is just, well, it's not going to be very effective. So look, it's all about picking the right tool for the right job. Big group studies, like randomized controlled trials or RCTs, they're great for answering big policy questions. What works on average for an entire school district? But single subject designs, or SSDs, they ask a much more powerful, much more personal question. Does this intervention work for this student right here, right now? And that's where our hero enters the picture. Let's unpack the really elegant solution that single subject designs offer to educators who are right there on the front lines. Okay, this is the simple but absolutely revolutionary idea that makes these designs so powerful. Instead of comparing one student to a totally different group of students, you compare that student to themselves. That's it. The individual is their own control. You track their progress before an intervention, during it, and after to see what actually moves the needle for them. So theory is great, but what does this actually look like in practice, in a real classroom with real students? Let's walk through a couple of classic designs so you can see this thing in action. All right, first up is the reversal design, which you'll often hear called the ABAB design. It's a super powerful way to show a real cause and effect relationship. You start by getting a baseline of behavior, that's your A, then you introduce your new strategy, that's B. Then here's the key. You take it away to see if things go back to how they were, and finally, you bring it back again to see if the improvement returns. And just look at this graph. The results are crystal clear. In that first phase, the baseline, the student's time on task is pretty low. Then you introduce the goal-setting intervention, and boom, it shoots way up. But then you take it away, and look, it drops right back down. Reintroduce it one more time, and there it is, right back up. That clear up, down, up pattern, that's some seriously convincing proof that your goal setting is what's making the difference. Okay, but wait, what if you can't just stop an intervention? Sometimes that's not ethical or even possible, right? Well, that's where the multiple baseline design is a lifesaver. With this one, you just stagger when you start the intervention for a few different students. Check out the logic here. It's so cool. You see student 1, they start the gratitude journaling in week 3, and their pro-social behavior immediately starts to climb. But look at student 2. Their behavior stays flat until they start in week 5. Then it goes up. And you see the exact same thing with student 3 in week 7. That staggered effect is so powerful because it helps rule out other things. It shows it's the journaling and not something else that's causing the change for each kid. Now, for any of this to work, the strength of these designs really rests on good measurement, and it all comes down to 3 key steps. First, you've got to make it observable. You can't really measure something vague like perseverance, right? But you can measure number of minutes spent on a difficult math problem. See the difference? Second, define it clearly so you're always counting the exact same thing. And third, you have to measure it often, like daily or per session, so you can see real patterns and not just random noise. So let's zoom out. What's the really big takeaway here? This is so much more than just a different research method. Honestly, it's a whole new way of thinking about what evidence even means in education. When you get right down to it, the real power here is that this approach democratizes research. It changes you from being just a consumer of studies into a producer of your own evidence. It values your professional wisdom and the unique context of your classroom. But most importantly, it brings the focus right back to where it should be all along, on the individual student sitting right in front of you. So I want to leave you with this one last thought. We're always looking for that next big breakthrough to come from some massive multi-million-dollar study. But what if the most important discoveries, the most profound insights, are just waiting to be found, one student at a time, in a classroom just like yours?